It was in 2007 that the Pentagon told George W. Bush that we cannot go to war with Iran because we do not have escalation dominance against them, essentially meaning that they can hit all of our bases and embassies in the region, and we are very vulnerable to them. And we've already seen demonstrated since the Israeli attack that the Iranian the missiles that they sent last year toward Israel, as many of us guessed, that wasn't really their best. They were intentionally making an attack that wouldn't really hurt anybody, that wouldn't really lead to a war, which Iran has done over and over again. But now we've pushed them to the point where they probably don't feel that they have the option not to respond. And Donald Trump telling them to come back to the negotiating table now is a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, what a impotent leader to be sitting there talking about coming back to the negotiating table. It's like sitting after Pearl Harbor and telling FDR, now's the time to go negotiate with the Japanese.
Right.
Negotiations are over now. The time for negotiations was before this. And so, yeah, Donald Trump looks, and man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one. But he should be impeached and removed for this one, and not on some like not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never do it because they're all a bunch of corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is like
Donald Trump should be impeached and removed for this. All of his supporters should turn on him. It's the absolute betrayal of everything that he ran and campaigned on and everything that he stood for. And I will say, despite the fact that, Donald Trump supporters have been labeled like a cult following, and that certainly is true for a percentage of his supporters, he is going to lose his coalition over this. I don't just speak for myself when I say there are a lot of us who simply will not go along with this. So
here at Courageous Media, really appreciate everybody rolling up. We have got to talk about the utter hysteria and lunacy that is gripping many on the supposed MAGA side. Now, these are people who self-proclaimed voted for Trump, but now they are absolutely losing their sugar honey iced tea over something that hasn't even happened yet. They are literally, you've got Dave Smith over here calling for Trump to be impeached. For what? He hasn't actually done anything yet. This whole thing is just utter craziness. It is hysteria of the highest order. And we are going to talk about it. We're going to dive into it, but this is absolutely nuts. But bottom line up front, Trump hasn't done anything yet. So we're going to get into that. Thanks so much, everybody, for rolling up. Really appreciate it. Grant Spain in here. Pamela's in. Resnap is in the house. Sear65 is in the house. Absolutely. I'm with you because I like Dave Smith. I liked a lot of the things that he said. And he did vote for Trump. But suddenly he, along with other pundits who self-proclaimed, those pundits were all in for Ron DeSantis at one point in time, who are now supposed MAGA loyalists, MAGA faithful, but are now suddenly calling for Trump's head, essentially. They're saying that he needs to be impeached, that he betrayed MAGA, and all of this for something that has not happened yet. The hysteria is off the charts. So we're going to dive into this. Thanks, everybody, for rolling up. Really appreciate it. Ron Rowe, what happened? It's all in your imagination. All right, here we go. So let's dive into this. We got a little clip from our friend over at Stephen Gardner, who's going to summarize some things that Candace Owens said. And then we're actually going to dive in to Candace Owens, because Candace Owens is the other one that has been beating this drum of sudden anti-Trumpism for some reason. They're claiming that they are 100% MAGA, and now they're anti-Trump. This is all a bunch of nonsense, hoopla, hysteria. Here, let's go.
Now, Candace Owens, who used to be a big believer in Donald Trump, now believes that he is bought off and compromised by Israel, that he only does the bidding of Israel, that Benjamin Netanyahu must have something over him. Here's what she wrote: "The most predictable war ever. I feel so sick of Israel and those who pretend its actions are normal or even remotely justifiable. This country has a bloodlust like no other. Have an issue with this tweet? I literally don't care. Think defending Israel's demonic actions is going to guarantee you a spot in heaven? Double your indulgences and sign your offspring up to die for Netanyahu. Leave the rest of us the hell alone. So she's become incredibly bitter towards Israel. I also understand, what are you supposed to do when the country next to you literally continues to try to kill you every single day?
Okay, so you got Stephen Gardner on Candace's tweet. Now, he did say something there that I want to highlight and talk about. For the last year or so, Candace has become increasingly bitter, may not be the word, although it could be there, but she has become increasingly suspicious of, distanced from, jaded towards Israel. And for lots of really viable reasons. She's been diving into history, and Israel's history is not great. It is not good when you actually start peeling back the covers and finding out what they have been involved in. When you think about their involvement with Epstein, when you think about their involvement in many, many, many of the forever wars that we have gotten involved in, from stuff, most of it in the Middle East, but not all of it, but much of it has been at the prompting of, not necessarily, I mean, you could say at the behest of, with the blessing of. So you've got a lot of very nuanced and interesting connections in all this. Now, as he said, she's become increasingly bitter towards Israel. She is now blasting Trump, saying that Trump is now controlled by Netanyahu, that Trump does Netanyahu's bidding. So let's dive into this, because Candace has some interesting things to say. And we're going to get into a lot of this, because some of it I agree with, some of it I do not. I do not buy into the hysteria at this point. Bottom line up front, Trump hasn't done anything yet. Let's all remember that. All right, let's dive into Candace in her own words.
I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares? Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land? Think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because there were weapons of mass destruction, right? They were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever. And these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what? And the answer to that question is for the elites. They're like toy soldiers. And I would have said a few weeks ago that Trump would never do that to you. He would never just throw you into an Israeli war. But right now, our planes are flying in the sky, and things are going nuclear. So I don't have that confidence anymore. And I'm comfortable with people being dishonorably discharged, because the dishonor has come from our politicians. The dishonor has come from our politicians who routinely lie in our faces and are willing to let us die to serve their financial interests. So why don't they dishonorably discharge themselves from public office?
Okay, so a couple things to react to there before we get into the next Candace clip. I have absolutely no evidence. In fact, I would take the opposite stance. Our planes are not flying over the top of Iran. Are our planes in the air? Absolutely. Our planes are in the air every single day in the Middle East in some way, shape, or form. There is covered air patrol over American carrier groups. There are planes flying out of Doha and Qatar and other still existing American air bases in the region. But I do not think, and I see absolutely zero evidence, that there are American planes flying over the top of Iran. We have not bombed anybody in Iran. We have taken absolutely no offensive action against Iran that I can find anywhere. You've got some vague allusions to Trump saying we have complete control over the skies of Iran. Okay. Now, remember, this is the same Trump who tweets out in his first term, Kovfefe, and everybody goes nuts because they don't realize when to take Trump literally and when not to. Now, this is the same Trump that constantly says it's going to be like something they've never, ever seen before. Okay, This is how Trump talks a lot of times. Now, to this end, and he talks about how our aircraft, our technology is superior to theirs. Okay, fine. What type of equipment does Israel use? They use 100% American military equipment. So when he says our equipment is superior, absolutely it is. And that can be true at the same time that there is not a single U.S. airplane piloted by a U.S. pilot over the airspace of Iran. It is 100% Israeli, but it is also Israeli flying 100% U.S. made military equipment. So yes, you're going to get Trump who does not speak precisely all the time. There are times when I think Trump is very careful to speak precisely, and there are other times that he doesn't. And you kind of have to figure out the difference. So yeah, Trump saying we own the skies over Iran, Israel does. And by default, because they are our ally and because they use our equipment, you could say we. But I have seen zero evidence that there is one single American airplane flying an American flag with an American pilot anywhere over the airspace of Iran. We have not committed forces whatsoever. Now, has Trump prepositioned some forces? Yes, he has. And has Trump been extremely vague, intentionally vague about what he's going to do? Yes, he has. This is absolutely nuts. All right, let's check out this next clip from Candace, again, talking about Trump betraying MAGA when I don't think he's done anything of the kind. Here we go.
What does he think? We're stupid? And the people online that are trying to pretend that we are the ones betraying Trump for holding him accountable to his promises that he made to us when we voted for him, when we encouraged other people to vote for him. You're pretending that we're the ones that are problematic? This level of gaslighting that's taking place. You got Laura Loomer out there saying, screenshot every tweet that's against Donald Trump. Let me tell you something, sweetheart. You better start capturing Donald Trump's tweets that are going out right now because they seem pretty against Donald Trump's ideas of yesteryear. That's all I'm saying.
Now, Resnap, absolutely. What happened to Candace? I think, again, Candace is utterly jaded by Israel. And I'm not saying it's unjustifiably so. I have listened to a lot of her content on the evils of Israel, what they have done against the United States, how they have bought and paid for U.S. politicians. I can't stand any of it. Now, do I believe that they control Trump? Absolutely not. I think Trump is the one independent in this whole thing. And as much as you want to get mad at Trump, imagine if Kamala Harris was in office right now, we would have 300,000 troops landing on the beaches of Iran already, most likely. We would have committed troops, or we would be fighting a ground war in Iraq. We would be fighting a ground war in Gaza. We would be fighting a ground war in Ukraine. We'd have already committed troops everywhere. So let's get one thing straight. I would much. I am so happy that we have Trump in office than anybody else. Now, could Trump still do the wrong thing? Sure, he absolutely could. Now, I want you to check this out because there are two things that I want to play here, and there are two contrasting ideas. One, I want to play this clip from Wesley Clark where he talks about how embedded the United States has been with Israel in promoting Israeli-backed national interests. And this is very important because we're going to contrast this with something that President Trump said that I want to get into. Here we go.
With Iraq, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says there's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq. He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Now,
about 10 days.
Just so everybody knows, that all the countries on that list have all been subject to regime change wars. Libya, Syria, Iraq, you name it. So what Wesley Clark is saying here is very interesting. And there is a mountain of evidence that we have completely botched Mideast foreign policy to the benefit of the globalists, the deep state, the military industrial complex, all of the establishment politicians, everybody from the Cheneys to the Clintons to the military contractors, they have all gotten wealthy. They have wasted 20 trillion US dollars. Much of that was laundered into the pockets of politicians, establishment globalists, and other neocon anti-American stooges. So I am not discounting any of that. We have the last 24 years to look at and say we have 100% failed in all of our Middle East foreign policy. And that's because none of it was based on America first. Now we have an America first president. We have Donald Trump, the only independent president that I can ever think of in my lifetime, save Ronald Reagan, who was not as independent as Trump is. So to that end, we've got Trump in office. I think, and I'm going to give Candace and Dave Smith a little bit of benefit of the doubt in that I think what they wanted was Trump to immediately come out and decry any of this. Okay? But that's not what Trump is going to do. If this was a clarion call for Trump to put boots on the ground in Gaza, or for Trump to put boots on the ground in Yemen, or for Trump to put boots on the ground anywhere, he would absolutely say, oh, no way, we're not going to do it. Yeah, I think he would absolutely come out and say that. But there's 2 things to keep in mind here. And again, it's you can hold 2 truths at the same time. 2 things can be true. Does Trump want to get us into a war? Absolutely 100% not. Give him the benefit of the doubt. He campaigned on that. But also realize that one thing Trump has been saying for the last 15 years, Trump is 100% America first. Trump absolutely campaigned on no forever wars. Trump absolutely campaigned on no foreign military adventurism. But Trump, although he did not campaign on this specifically, he has been talking about this next clip for the last 15 years. And I want you to watch it so that we can begin to get inside Trump's head as much as we can from the outside. So check this out, and then we're going to discuss it.
Trump, they pointed out, was elected on getting us out of wars in the Middle East.
You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon.
When did Trump suggest that Iran was even on his mind?
Everybody, no nuclear weapons. You can't give them nuclear weapons.
It'd be one thing if Trump had campaigned on stopping Iran's nuclear program.
Don't let Iran have nuclear weapons. That's my only thing I have to tell you today.
But for Trump to just voice this policy on us, completely out of the blue,
including Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. That's all. They can't have nuclear weapons. It's too destructive, too powerful. They can't have it.
Without any warning.
I just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon.
Well, it's a betrayal, wouldn't you say? What else do you call it when you say one thing on the campaign trail.
They cannot have a nuclear weapon. That was the only thing. The one thing I said you cannot have.
And another thing when you get into office.
You can't let Iran have nuclear weapons.
Now, I don't want the U.S. to get bogged down in another war in the Middle East. I think many of the arguments regarding Iran are bogus, as I've said repeatedly on the show. But it also seems strange.
Okay, now I want you to hold that because it's just epic. You've got people like Smith and Candace Owens out there drumbeating that Trump is betraying his campaign promises. Those were all campaign stops. Trump's constant statements against Iran that they cannot have a nuclear weapon go back 15 years. All of those clips were from the 2024 campaign. Trump let everybody know exactly what he was thinking. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's his one thing. Now remember, it was not just a month and a half ago that Trump bombed the bejesus out of the Houthis in Yemen. Where were the calls of betrayal? Where were the calls of Trump is betraying MAGA? Where were the calls of Trump is a military adventurous? Where were the calls of Trump is going to get us into a forever war when we were bombing the literal crap out of the Houthis? Nowhere. So why the difference now when all Trump is talking about, Trump has never once talked about boots on the ground, not even once. That has not even entered into the lexicon. The one thing that Trump is considering, and he has not done yet, is potential airstrikes against specific nuclear targets. And he's only talking about 2 nuclear targets that right now Israel cannot reach because of their depth. So Trump's got options, and Trump is weighing those options. He said so. He is weighing what to do. Does he strike Iran? Does he allow Israel to buy certain weapons? Now, to buy those weapons, they would also have to buy a delivery mechanism, i.e., I wouldn't sell them a B-2 bomber. I would keep those in my back pocket. No one should have that technology. But how about a B-52? Those weapons will go on a B-52 bomber. Sell them a B-52. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Okay, let's talk about that because you've got Trump saying over and over again, his one thing is Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Trump also campaigned on 100% no new foreign wars. He said it over and over and over and over again. Those two things can be true at the same time because Trump is not talking about regime change or nation building or putting boots on the ground. He's never once mentioned that. And even so, he has not even struck Iran. He has done nothing. Nothing. Now, I want to play this because this goes back to you've got people coming out of the woodwork declaring that Trump has betrayed MAGA when he hasn't actually done it yet. And before I get into this clip, I did want to mention one thing. Resnap mentioned it. He talked about Tucker Carlson. Now, what happened to Tucker? Now, to Tucker's credit, Tucker has not said that Trump betrayed MAGA. Tucker has not said that Trump betrayed anything. Tucker was actually very kind. Tucker said in his interview with Bannon, said, "Hey, Trump is a good, decent man. I respect him." What he did say was that if Trump does this, if Trump enters into military aggression with Iran, now I think he was specifically talking boots on the ground because again, we've bombed the crap out of the Houthis and it hasn't ended the MAGA movement whatsoever. I don't think Tucker was talking about pinpoint limited airstrikes. Now, maybe he was because I'm not in his head. But what Tucker did say, he didn't say Trump has betrayed MAGA. Tucker said that if Trump does this, it will end his presidency. It will end the effectiveness of his presidency. His presidency will become about Iran and not about deporting illegals, closing the border, fixing the economy, bringing manufacturing back to America, all the other things that Trump needs to accomplish that are far more beneficial to America than anything we could do over in Iran. The one thing that will get Trump to act is if he absolutely believes that they are close to a nuclear weapon and that his action will prevent that. And again, the only action I think he is even considering taking is limited pinpoint airstrikes. Now, let's listen to Trump in his own words. Let's not put words in his mouth. Let's listen to what Trump had to say.
Whether you are moving closer or you believe the U.S. is moving closer to striking Iranian nuclear facilities. Where's your mindset on that?
I can't say that, right? You don't seriously think I'm going to answer that question? Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component? And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you strike it? Would you please inform us so we can be there and watch? I mean,
these reporters are absolute clowns. I love Trump. He just laughs. You really think I'm going to answer that?
You don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble. And they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never said anything like it. It's so, everyone thought it was going to be the reverse. I didn't think so. And I was telling them, you gotta do something. You gotta negotiate. And at the end, last minute, they said, no, we're not going to do that. And they got hit. Remember 60 days? And then came the 60. 61 is going to become a very famous number. That was one hell of a hit, that first hit. That was one hell of a hit. Not sustainable, to be honest. That's where it ended. It ended on the first night, yes.
Is it too late, though? Do you think it's too late to now?
Really, nothing's too late. The only thing too late is Powell. Powell's too late. Too late, Powell.
Have the Iranians reached out to you, Mr. President?
What?
Have the Iranians reached out to you?
Yes.
And what did you say?
I said it's very late. I said it's very late to be talking.
Mr. President. So you've got Trump literally telling everybody, nobody knows what I'm going to do. Trump is playing brinksmanship. Everything that I've looked at, all the evidence, all of the surrounding things that are going on. Now, I'll be honest. Would I have rather Trump come out and say, we're not getting involved in this thing, we're out? Would I much rather Trump said, based on Tulsi Gabbard's Senate testimony, hey, according to our intelligence services, they're not as close as everybody else thinks they are. And so we're just out. Now, for whatever reason, Trump is either seeing different intel or he's interpreting intelligence different than Tulsi Gabbard in this particular case. Now, Tulsi has a very, very much a more isolationist bent than Trump does. Tulsi is more along the lines of J.D. Vance when it comes to, she leans more isolationist than just not foreign military interventionist. Okay. She's more geared towards the isolationism wing, let's say, of that argument. So I can see where she's coming from. So it may be that he's interpreting it different. But again, he comes from 15 years of Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. All right. And again, he has never talked about boots on the ground. So this whole thing, I believe, is a complete, ridiculous, unnecessary dust-up. And I say all this because I think what Trump is doing is playing brinksmanship. I think he wants to get Iran back to the table. I think when Israel said we were going to go bomb him, Trump said, okay, fine. It's day 60. I think he said, no, I'm still negotiating. When it got to day 60, I think he went to Netanyahu and said, if you think they're threatening, go after them. Have fun. Go do it. And I am fine with that. If they really think that Iran is close to a nuclear weapon, then go take out their capability to do it and delay them. Delay them so we can get back to the table. Delay them so that we can possibly encourage internal regime change from a grassroots effort of the Iranian people. Nothing from the outside, nothing imposed from exterior. It has to be the Iranian people saying we've had enough of this nonsense. That's the only way. And it has nothing to do with us other than maybe providing Starlink, kind of nudging it in the right direction, that sort of thing. That's it. Now, at the same time, I did come across this report, which I found extremely troubling and interesting. at the same time. And I think it could explain a lot of what's going on at this point in time. Rogue states, Russia and Iran, have been attempting to destroy the MAGA movement with disinformation bot army. So I think you've got a lot of manufactured, astroturfed outrage over this issue that is being sponsored by bots on social media. I think a lot of this, just like most of the protests, all of the No Kings protests, all that was astroturfed, paid for nonsense. I think a lot of the outrage. Now, is Candace saying what she says? Absolutely. Is Dave Smith saying what he's saying? Absolutely. Is Tucker saying what he's saying? Absolutely. But I think a lot of the ginned up outrage beyond that could be this bot army that's going on. But nevertheless, the bottom line facts are the United States has done nothing to Iran. We have not dropped a single bomb. We have not put a single troop on the ground. We have done nothing. So all of this outrage is completely premature. Do you want Trump to not do anything in Iran? Fine, get on your platform and say that. Say, President Trump, do not get involved in Iran. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. But don't get up there and say he should be impeached. He betrayed MAGA. Why? He hasn't done anything, Dave Smith. I mean, sometimes people cannot see past the nose on their face. It's ridiculous. All right. Thanks, everybody, so much. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And also share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. A little bit of good news. We are back on the monetization train. So you will see some messages coming out from the channel where you can actually become a member again here on YouTube. We'll be getting all that set up, but we have got the green light. Finally, it's been a very long 9-month fight. Thank you, everybody. Now, we do have another story I want to get to. This is not the only story for today, but that does end it for the Iran-Israel conflict. So please let me know what you think in the comments. Design DD, absolutely. Never let the enemy know your agenda. So shut up and enjoy the peace that is crafted through strength. I completely 100% agree with you. Donald Trump is not stupid. And he's not controlled. I don't care if Miriam Adelson gave him $100 million. Donald Trump is not going to turn around and do somebody's bidding because they gave him a campaign contribution. You saw that with Musk. Musk gave him far more than $100 million, and they got into a spat over disagreements on policy. Trump is not going to roll over for anybody. Now, the other major news story for today, well, there's lots going on, but the other one I want to cover is this bombshell story out of the Supreme Court. So let's get into that. I want to play this clip to get us started. You're going to love this, but Supreme Court has come down big on the side of MAGA, of Trump, of no woke, and specifically of Tennessee. Check this out.
So to the trans activists over there claiming that this is all about the rights of children, I say again, yes, you're right, it is. They have a right to be protected from you. Children have a right to be protected from all of those people over there who want to harm them and damage them and destroy them. And they will be. They are going to lose. They are losing right now. We are not going to let them harm our children. This case is just the beginning of the fight. It is not the end. We are not going to rest until every child is protected, until trans ideology is entirely erased from the earth. That's what we're fighting for, and we will not stop until we achieve it.
So, just so everybody knows, Tennessee passed a landmark piece of legislation about a year and a half ago that basically said you cannot give any gender affirming care to minors. You cannot socially transition them. You cannot chemically transition them. You cannot surgically transition them. None of it. It all constitutes child abuse. And specifically in the bill, they call it mutilation. And any doctor that performs it is subject to losing their license and is subject to civil and criminal penalties. Well, of course, all of the LGBTQ activist groups filed suit. They got some injunctions, whatnot. All of this has rolled up to the Supreme Court, and let's just say that it has not gone the LGBTQ activists' way. Check this out.
Court is upholding Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for transgender youth. Now, this delivers a major blow to the trans community. Let's just go through this Tennessee law. It restricts hormone therapy and puberty blockers for transgender minors, and it also punishes doctors if they provide such care.
In addition to saying that this is not a sex discrimination law, he really highlighted the policy implications, saying this case carries with it the weight of fierce scientific and policy debates about the safety, efficacy, and propriety of medical treatments in an evolving field. We leave questions regarding its policy to the people, their elected representatives, and the democratic process. And then, Aaron, Justice Sotomayor, writing for the liberals in dissent, really said that the chief had recharacterized this law, that it was truly about sex discrimination. And she concluded by saying, by retreating from meaningful judicial review exactly where it matters most, the court abandons transgender children and their families to political whims.
On the contrary, they absolutely protected transgender youth from the medical mutilation machine that wants to destroy them for social ideology, political ideology, and money. There is huge, huge money involved for every child that goes through this, both on the initial surgical side and then on the lifelong treasure trove of pharmaceutical drugs that they have to purchase for the next 60, 70, 80 years of their life. And the Supreme Court has absolutely come down on the side of non-woke and MAGA. So check this, specifically not MAGA from that, but from the Trump end of woke agenda. Check this out. Let me know what you think in the comments. We're going to dive right into this last clip. Here we go.
Following some breaking news this morning, right now, as you take a live look here in Washington, as we are watching the Supreme Court this hour, ruling is coming down. So this just in, the Supreme Court is upholding a Tennessee law restricting gender-altering procedures for minors. That's a big win there for Tennessee. The 6-3 ruling is likely to have a broad impact on...
And this is why I did want to cover that. It's a 6-3 rule. This is not 5-4. This is not really even that close. This was the ultra left-wing judges voting and everybody else, even Roberts, coming down on the side of no. Tennessee can absolutely do this. We are not in the business of adjudicating policy. This law does not violate the Constitution, and we're not going to get involved in debates about policy. This is fantastic.
Not just Tennessee, but 24 other states that have already enacted laws similar to the one in Tennessee, again, banning gender-altering procedures for minors. So a big one there. That stops transition surgery, puberty blockers, hormone therapy, again, for minors. Those laws are now likely to face similar legal challenges as well.
The court, in an opinion authored by Chief Justice John Roberts, concluded that the Tennessee law does not constitute a form of sex discrimination that would violate the Constitution's 14th Amendment. The legal challenge had been brought on by the Biden administration, as well as transgender teenagers and their families. Judge Anna Napolitano is here with us in studio. We called him up. We said, Judge, we've got an opinion. Right. We've got to get your analysis on it. A big win for parents, by the way, at least in this case, who wanted to prevent minor children from transition.
Yes, it's also a win for the right of the states to legislate for the health, safety, welfare, and morality of the people in those states. By requiring certain procedures be followed and prohibiting the administration of certain procedures on minors. This is, of course, a very, very significant ruling because it will affect the law, as you said, in 23 other states. But it upholds the power of the states to legislate for the welfare of children, and it upholds the power of the states to regulate the medical profession. There's no...
This is absolutely huge. You've got almost half the states saying hell no to this gender mutilation nonsense in the name of gender affirming care. Tennessee was the first, and it was by far, so far, the most stringent law, but it opens the door for every other conservative red state to say, we are not going to let this happen. Hopefully Texas follows suit very quickly.
According to the majority, and it's a very well-reasoned and long opinion, there's no federal constitutional implication here. The 3 liberal justices dissented and argued that this is treating people differently on the basis of sex. Now, that's very significant, the use of the word sex. When the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was written in 1964, the word sex really meant gender. There were only 2 recognizable genders.
According to the Trump administration, there are only 2 recognizable genders. According to science, there are only 2 recognizable genders. There's only 2 DNA profiles. There's XX and XY. That's it. There's nothing else. There's no XXY, XYX. There's none of that. There's only 2. Now, are there certain genetic anomalies that do not create a third gender? Yes, there are some genetic deformations, but they are not in any way, shape, or form a third gender.
There are only 2 genders today, in the opinion of a lot of us. However, people do things to their bodies that allows them to hold themselves out as being transgendered. In response to that, the Supreme Court reinterpreted the word sex to mean all things sexual. So the challengers said, if the Civil Rights Act of '64 prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex, why are you discriminating on this basis for us? The Supreme Court said this is not a discrimination on the basis of sex. It's a regulation for the health, safety, welfare, and morality of children, well within the authority of the states.
Absolutely. That's the most important thing about this. I don't think anybody in America really, I'm going to say anybody. The vast majority of Americans do not want to tell mature adults that they can't go do this if they want. If you are an adult and you feel that you want to go transition your body, if you want to spend your own money and mutilate your own body and go manifest yourself as the opposite gender, go right ahead. No one's going to stop you. But you cannot do this to children. It is tantamount, it is child abuse. Minors cannot consent to sexual activity. They cannot sign contracts. They cannot work jobs. For all of the same reasons, they are not mature enough to make those decisions. If you ask my children what they want to eat every day, they would basically say cake, cookies, soda pop, and cereal. And that's it. And chicken nuggets. They would eat nothing else. That's why I don't let them make some of those decisions. Not every single day. They certainly are not mature enough to make decisions about sex, about gender, about healthcare, about any of that. They are not mature enough. That's why this law and all of the ones in all the other states specifically prohibit this for minors. If you're an adult and you want to do this, have at it. But do not do this to children who have no say in the matter. So awesome. Supreme Court has come down on the side of the based Americans, of conservative Americans, of the non-woke Americans. And I think this might actually be the nail in the coffin of the entire woke agenda. We'll see. Let me know what you think in the comments. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thanks so much for being here. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Thanks so much.